show today we pit the new E220D against the Volvo S90. Shumi rides the much awaited adventure tourer, the Honda Africa Twin, and details of the Mercedes-Benz GLA facelift. Hi, welcome to Overdrive. You're watching the show with me, Sohini Dutt. Now, Mercedes-Benz has always ruled the roost when it comes to offering extremely luxurious executive sedans, and now they have made the E-Class a lot more accessible with the new 2-litre diesel engine, which of course is the E220 with a longer wheelbase version. Now, this Mercedes-Benz of course faces some stiff competition from its Swedish rival Volvo.
Beauty, they say, is skin deep, but then there's also something known as inner beauty. And today's show, we've got two lovely cars, sterling examples of gorgeousness, both on the outside and on the inside. But which of these two cars, the Volvo S90 or the Mercedes-Benz E220, radiates a stronger aura? Well, that's what we are here to find out. The E-Class is a good-looking car, but it's the long wheelbase that gives it an additional dollop of elegance and charm. The length accentuates its stately appeal, though that front end with the bold grille and the large emblem could have been a bit more subtle to complement the rest of this car. The E-Class nonetheless is a powerful visual statement, though it does not draw as much attention as the Volvo does. The S90 is pure gorgeousness. Its low-slung stance, wide body and long silhouette deceptively make the E-Class appear smaller than it. And it's not. The S90 also has some stunning design flourishes all around that highlight it, like the Thor's hammer headlamps, the stunning tail lamps, the stunning grille. It's all paint and polish to create an effect that's supposed to stop you in your tracks. And it does. Where the interiors are concerned, however, I find the E-Class to be more appealing than the S90. The styling details look smarter to me in the E-Class, though the S90 also has a stunning cabin. Where the E-Class clearly gains an advantage over the S90 is the rear cabin space. Now the E-Class, because it's the long wheelbase version, offers a little more knee room than you get in the S90 because the length and the wheelbase are longer than in the S90. But well, there's the advantage. It also offers a little more headroom than in the S90 as well. The shoulder space, well, I think the S90 is a little bit more generous where that is concerned. However, the one signature highlight in this rear space of the E220 in the E-Class has got to be these reclinable seats. At the end of a long tiring day, if you just want to let yourself back, relax and enjoy your drive home, this is the car to do it in. Where exterior design is concerned, well, I had to hand it over to the S90. There is no doubting that is the remarkably more striking car than the E-Class. But where the interiors are concerned, well, again, it's a very closely matched fight between these two cars. But I'd give a point more to the E-Class simply because this cabin feels just that little nicer than what you get in the S90. The finish, the textures, the layers within this, the elegance of this cabin, decidedly much better than what you get in the S90. A lot of the design and styling elements the E-Class borrows from its older sibling, the S-Class, and in that regard what you get is a stunning interior. The E220D's signature highlight is of course its 4-cylinder diesel engine. Now this turbocharged unit, well, it's just a little smaller than what you get in the S90. The E220D's engine displaces 1950cc compared to the 1964cc that you get in the S90. So that's a very small drop. But nonetheless, the power rating, the power output of the E220D is just a little bit higher than what you get in the S90. 194 PS to 192 PS. So marginally more powerful than the S90. Where torque is concerned, both these cars make 400 Newton meters of max torque. The other difference, of course, is that the E-Class has a 9-speed automatic transmission. This is Mercedes-Benz's 9G-tronic automatic transmission compared to the S90, which has just an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, how does this matter? Well, Mercedes-Benz's efforts are towards getting out better fuel efficiency from this car, while at the same time balancing out performance as well. And in that regard, the E220D is just a little bit more fuel efficient than the S90. Both the E-Class and the S90 ride on air suspension, slightly different configuration in the front and the rear, with a bit of a difference in the suspension settings. And both of them bring a different ride quality to the experience. Real estate is a fairly precious commodity to us Indians, you know it well. And these cars, well, they've got a fair amount of real estate right inside these cabins. They are luxurious to the hilt. Now I'm sitting inside the S90 and as you can see, there's a generous amount of knee room out here. But the one thing that it lacks is headroom. Because this has got a fairly low roof line, there's a little bit of headroom that you've got above. And well, there are other cars that are better in this regard. However, shoulder space is generous enough. Now, a few things that are fairly innovative in this cabin, in this space as well. One is, of course, the touchscreen controls for the climate control system. But apart from that, well, here's something very interesting that they have to offer passengers, especially for children. Well, Volvo's provided a safety seat for kids who are older than 3 years but weigh between 15 to 32 kilos. And this is what well helps them to get the seat belts around them comfortably and well stay safe if an accident occurs. I think this is absolutely brilliant where safety is concerned. The S90 had one of the loveliest dashboards or other interior designs that we've seen on a sedan in this segment, but the E-Class well changed a lot of that simply because it borrowed a lot of its cues from the S-Class. It echoed the S-Class in every aspect. But let me not detract over here. The design of the S90, well, after the E220, I think what you get in the S90 is still remarkably striking, but it's lost out a few marks to the E220. This variant, the inscription variant, comes packed to the gill with features of every sort. One of the defining characteristics of this car, of course, is its sound system. The Bars and Wilkins that you get in the S90 is the best you can probably get in this segment. It outdoes Mercedes-Benz's Burmeister sound system by yards. Another feature where the S90 scores over the E220 are the vented seats. Beautiful seats to look at. They look slim, elegant and well designed. You've got great lumbar support, as comfortable as the E220, but these are vented as well, which means for our summer conditions, these seats can be cooled down. That is a huge advantage. The first thing that's apparent once you're inside this car is that the noise insulation, well, really isn't comparable to what you get inside the E-Class. The E220 just stands head and shoulders above the S90. I can hear the fan inside this car. I can hear the cooling system of this car working inside this car. The road noise, of course, is also a lot more audible inside this cabin compared to what you get in the E220. Which means, of course, the tires that Volvo is using in India, they give out a little bit more noise. But all of these factors diminish the luxury quotient a little bit when you compare it to the E220. One of the disadvantages, I'd say, is the transmission. The E220 has paddle shifters behind the steering wheel, and that makes the driving experience that much richer. And I have to say this, but the S90's 2-litre diesel engine, it feels a lot more punchier, even though it's less powerful than the E220. It definitely feels a lot more punchier, and that's because the way the ratios are spaced out with the transmission. But without the paddle shifters behind the steering wheel, there really is lesser control in this car compared to the E220. In that sense, there are fewer things that I can manage with this car compared to the E-Class. Even the drive modes, you've got just 3 drive modes in the S90. There's the Eco mode, the Comfort mode and the Dynamic mode. Whereas the E-Class, well, it's got 5 modes, 2 modes more than the S90. One of which is the individual mode where you can choose various parameters and set them according to what the way you'd like to drive your car. So which one would I buy over the other? Is it the S90 or the E220? So overall then, the E-Class clearly has the edge over the S90 in almost every respect except for street presence. The S90 is hands down the most stunning looking car with a fantastic powertrain complemented by solid dynamics and ride comfort. But the E-Class is just a league ahead in all those areas. The E-Class is also cheaper than the S90 if you compare it spec to spec, and by a substantial amount. So there is no doubt in my mind anymore that the E-Class has this comparison test wrapped up. What happens though when the E-Class faces the BMW 5 Series? That's a story for another day.
Well, time for us to take our first break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, Shumi will tell you all you need to know about the new Honda Africa Twin. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. Now when it comes to adventure tourers, there's one particular motorcycle that the entire Overdrive team has been waiting for. Heck, it's even the entire motorcycling fraternity that has been waiting for it with bated breath. Honda has finally invited us to ride the new Africa Twin, and here's what Shumi thinks about the motorcycle.
The pricing arrived quite a while ago, the bookings have been opened, deliveries have just started, and today it's our turn to ride the new Honda Africa Twin. We know already that this is perhaps the most off-road focused of the adventure tourers you can buy in India today. We know that it is assembled in India and therefore the price is excellent. The question is, how does the DCT equipped automatic Africa Twin do in Indian conditions?
You will be surprised by the automatic. D mode is the basic selection and I found it a bit sleepy, although Honda says it permits 400 km or more to the tank full in that mode. 3 sportier modes work better and I settled into S2 or S3, the most aggressive modes for the most part. I did intervene with the buttons now and then, usually to downshift earlier than the software wants to. All in all though, it's odd and you will have to learn the switchgear layout, but you settle in with the DCT gearbox after a while. In the dirt though, I found that the all manual mode was preferable because sometimes when you're setting up the next maneuver, you have to feather the throttle or close the throttle. In that moment, the gearbox wants to change to a higher gear. But to answer the question, the DCT gearbox, it works.
Is the Africa Twin a real dirt bike though? In many ways yes, because that is a 21-inch front wheel. It does have really long travel suspension. Of course the suspension is tuned really well, so it feels really good to ride. So when you're riding on the road and you turn into corners, it's not really like a 17-inch front wheel motorcycle, which could be one of the lower Tigers or the Multistrada or something like that. It is definitely more like a dirt bike in feel. Does that get in your way though? Unless you're going 10-10s or really hard, not really, not at all.
But let us not get confused. The proper dirt biking that you see in the Africa Twin promo videos comes on proper knobby tires, not the OE spec dual sport block tread tires. So on the road, you won't lack for grip, but you do have the odd sensation, which is a long travel soft suspension setup gently bouncing after crests and dips, and the big changes of pitch when you gas it or brake hard. The flip side is that the ride quality is terrific. I wouldn't call it the most comfortable bike in its class, but it is by far the most indestructible in feel, and it will swallow bad roads, craters and all without a hiccup. That ability is worth its weight in gold as far as I am concerned in our conditions. But the surprise for me is how much I liked how the Africa Twin is styled. I think it is the best looking Honda motorcycle currently in production, and I'm including the new Fireblade in that. I love the twin LED headlamp shape as a styling hat tip to the original one, and I do wish that both the beams were always lit. The Africa Twin feels skinny and compact, and it totally does not feel its weight, which is a huge bonus for a machine of this size and displacement. All in all, the Honda is a beautiful machine. It does make me wish that an even more affordable manual version of the Africa Twin would come to India. Of course, Honda India has not confirmed anything on that front yet. But when all is said and done, the Honda Africa Twin is a daring entry into the adventure tourer space in India.
The thing that you have to remember about buying the Africa Twin is that if you're primarily using an adventure tourer for road use, maybe there are bikes that will make you feel more satisfied with them. But if you go, for example, to Ladakh every year, or you have an intention to ride in the dirt a lot, and you do good highway miles and you want to ride it in the city, the size, the compactness, the automatic transmission, everything comes together really well. And the Africa Twin in that sense is a very persuasive package.
There is a lot more detail that he would like to share with you on the Overdrive website, on Twitter, Facebook, as well as on his Instagram page. So follow him there. It's time for us to check out the latest in our motoring news section.
Land Rover India has announced the prices of its new-gen Discovery in India. Starting at 68.05 lakh rupees ex-showroom, the 2017 Land Rover Discovery SUV will be available with a choice of petrol and diesel engines. The 2017 Discovery is an important offering considering the fact that the SUV is based on the latest premium lightweight architecture, making it 480 kgs lighter than the previous model. While the previous model had a more squarish profile, the new iteration looks a lot more sophisticated and sleeker in design. The 5th generation Land Rover Discovery is 140 mm longer and shorter in height than the previous model. The cabin too has been revamped completely with the latest in terms of trims and equipment. It comes with a new 10-inch infotainment system with Android and iOS connectivity. The SUV comes in both 5 and 7-seat configurations. Powering the all-new Land Rover Discovery SUV is a 3-litre diesel motor that makes 258 PS and generates 600 Nm of torque. This motor is mated to 9-speed automatic transmission. There is also an option of a 3-litre petrol that churns out 340 PS of power and 450 Nm of torque. The new Discovery will be on sale from November 2017. However, all the 25 dealerships have already started accepting bookings for the SUV.
Well, time for us to head into our final commercial break here on the show, but on the other side we will tell you what's changed in the updated Mercedes-Benz GLA. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. Now, Mercedes-Benz has given its crossover, the GLA, a facelift, and as promised, we bring you a first drive report of the same.
The GLA was never really an SUV, but with its facelift, it has no problem fitting into the wilderness, at least as far as the design is concerned. The new shade of brown that you see here certainly adds a vibe of off-road enthusiasm, but what gives it a beefed-up look is the new grille. The perforated pattern on the grille certainly adds more character to the face. It is complemented by the redesigned headlights, which now get LED headlamps, a revised detailing, and a new shape for the daytime running lamps. The taillights have been revised too and look quite smart. As before, the beefier bumpers and the skid plates do try their level best to make the tail look more SUV than hatchback, but the resemblance with the A-Class is hard to erase. The finish complements the shiny bits around the window line and the roof rails, while the panoramic roof adds a touch of class. It also adds a sense of roominess to the cabin. Mercedes-Benz allows you to opt between two designs for the dashboard inlays, and the one seen here is the sail pattern. The stick-out display is now mated to a newer version of the Command infotainment system, which is slick and easier to use, gets satellite navigation, 2 USB ports, and a 4-speaker audio unit. What is also new is the instrumentation with its color multi-information display. The GLA will also let you choose from 12 colors for ambient lighting inside the cabin. To refresh your memory, this is what the rear seat space of the GLA looks like. Knee room, decent, not great under thigh support. I have a decent amount of foot space. Headroom is quite good. But as compared to the CLA or the A-Class, this is still the roomier option. So if you are going to be chauffeur driven in an entry-level Mercedes-Benz car, then a GLA is ideally the car to go for. What also remains unchanged are the mechanicals. This car continues to have a good lineup of engines, and the one that I'm driving right now is the range-topping diesel, which gives it the GLA 220 moniker. This then is the GLA 220D, which means it gets the 2.2-litre oiler that puts out 168 PS of power and 350 Nm of torque. Mercedes-Benz also offers the lower spec and more popular GLA 200D, with a 2-litre oiler, and a GLA 200 which gets a 2-litre petrol. The 220D that is seen here is a peppy motor for city and highway use, and thanks to the obedient 7-speed gearbox, it is also a fairly fun car to drive on your weekend getaways. The new bodywork of this car has also improved the overall aerodynamics of it, and that has resulted in marginally better sprint times. In our test, we managed to get a 0 to 100 in about 9.2 seconds. The fuel economy saw a marginal improvement too in the city and on the highway. The 220D is also the only variant to get the 4MATIC all-wheel drive system that adds a bit of fun to a weekend drive should you decide to drive off the tarmac and up into some trails. The unchanged mechanicals also mean that you get the same suspension setup comprising of McPherson struts at the front and a multi-link axle at the back. It continues to have a supple ride and predictable dynamics. It is an easy driver in that sense, and therefore a good starting point for anyone looking to buy their first car into this luxury space. Being a more comprehensive update as compared to the midlife makeovers given to the A, B or the CLA class, the GLA also comes across as a sweeter deal amongst the entry-level Mercedes-Benz cars.
Well, there you go. We've run out of time on this week's episode of Overdrive. But remember, we'd like to hear your thoughts as well as your feedback. So send them to us on Facebook as well as Twitter, and follow our latest posts on Instagram. We also have the latest videos on YouTube. So subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye and thanks for watching.